Hi there folks, my name is NovaWing24 and welcome to another little Microsoft Flight Simulator product review, and today we are taking a bit of a step outside of my comfort zone and we are going to be exploring the world of frantic palm trees. Yes, today we are having a look at the Cowan Simulations Bell 222B. And I'm going to start off by saying, as I said, like this is definitely very much a step outside my comfort zone. Frantic palm trees are something that I absolutely love and find absolutely challenging to fly. So looking at this aircraft is going to be interesting for me on several levels, and I'm sure everybody's going to have a bit of a laugh. But I do want to take my time with it because I feel that this aircraft is one that is steeped in so much nostalgia, particularly if you're of the flight simulation and aviation interest vintage that I find myself in. You will find this helicopter to be somewhat iconic from a certain TV series that shall not be named. Anyway, all right, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having a look at this wonderful aircraft today. Thanks very much to the team over at Cowan Simulations and Orbix today for providing the review copy of this aircraft. And we're going to go through our standard sort of review process today. We're going to be going through having a look at the externals here. We're going to have a look at we're going to do a cold and dark start, have a bit of a flight. So hopefully it will not result in a hull loss because this is me with helicopters here, and then give our overall impressions. And we're going to explore some of the interesting little variations that Cowan Simulations has managed to provide us with this very fascinating helicopter. And as I said, like this is a helicopter that has some fascinating history, and as I alluded to earlier, it is very, very iconic in its airframe shape. And for me, it really just does. Like for me, the Bell 222, it just epitomizes everything about executive helicopters. It really, really does. And it's fascinating to be able to see that. And not only do we get the executive interior, we get an alternative interior as well. But we'll go into that in a bit more detail later on. Anyway, all right. So onwards to the review of the aircraft. And the external model is pretty damn immaculate. Like it really is. Like it just looks absolutely incredible. It captures everything about the sleek lines of the Bell 222, you know, designed as the corporate transport that it is. It really just captures that flowing form that the airframe has, and they capture so much of the details here, like all the latches and all the various, you know, hatches and everything are all detailed in some pretty minute and pretty exquisite detail here. All of the, you know, the rotors, the tail rotors are done in some pretty incredible detail as well, and the overall texturing is done pretty damn well as well. You know, we've got all for the rivet counters, all the bolts are there textured onto the airframe, you know, all the way down to the grids sort of protecting the engines and providing ventilation for the engines, as well as all the various other features as well. Now, it is going to be something interesting, and I'll explore this as well, but it's not just, you know, the external model isn't static. I mean, we've come to expect, you know, opening doors and stuff like that, but there's a bit more to it than just opening doors when it comes to this particular airframe. And I think that might be a great time for us to jump into the cockpit and go through some of those options. So let's step into the office. All right, so here we are in the office of the Bell 222, and it is you know, it looks the part. It absolutely does look the part. And with this nice, you know, clean corporate style, you know, we've got the corporate executive transport out the back there, in the back there, and then the clean Spartan look of the cockpit here. And the cockpit is really interesting for me because it's a cockpit that I find very comfortable, and I find well laid out. And I, you know, I'm not going to get into the whole, you know, thing of, you know, ergonomics and layouts of cockpits and all that kind of stuff. But for me, it personally provides a nice balance between modern avionics and traditional sort of, you know, steam gauge type of avionics. You know, we still have the nod to modern systems through the use of the Garmin GNS 530 and 430 here on the co-pilot side. But most of the gauges here are still very much analog gauges, and that, of course, that suits, you know, the time of when this aircraft was built. So because the 222 was eventually supplanted by it was an upgraded version of the 230 was offered later on with more powerful engines, and then it moved from there onto the 430 series was the final sort of evolution of this airframe. So this one it was very much designed. There was only around about I think there's less than 40 actually built of the 222B, of the 222 and the 222B when they were actually being manufactured. So it very much encapsulates the time of that. So it is very, it is correct in everything that I've been able to compare it to. It does have all of the required avionics that we see as part of the actual airframe that actually flies in Bell 222Bs around the world. Now, Bell 222B, by the way, is itself an upgraded version of the original Bell 222A, so with slightly more powerful engines. And in some ways, that actually does come across in some of the handling characteristics, which we'll get into more once we are actually in the air. But what I did want to, as I said, I alluded to something when we were just doing the external there, where there's a few little interesting features of this aircraft that are, I think, kind of cool. And I do want to quickly show them off. So the best way to show them off is using the weight and balance. So we used to, many developers, or maybe not many developers, but some developers actually sort of giving us, viable, or sort of when you change weights on certain parts of the aircraft, then things change on the aircraft. So, clear example for this one is that, for example, we have two passengers at the back there. In fact, actually, you know what? Let's move the camera so we can actually see this a bit better, I think. So let's move the camera here. So we'll just move our camera so we can see our corporate passengers here waiting to be transported across here from Canada to America. Now, if we go through here and we actually change these weights to 0, it actually does dynamically change whether or not we actually have passengers actually here in the aircraft. So nice touch that I think is pretty cool. It's a small thing, but I really appreciate the fact that we do have those that dynamic weight and the dynamic change in the cockpit in the cabin when adjusting the weights for this one. So I am going to put our passengers back into place. So there we go. The other one that's interesting, you might notice that we've got here the one here on the doors. So let's actually, for this one, let's jump outside and have a look at what happens when we take that door weight off. So on the outside here, you can see, yep, cool, no worries, yep, doors are pretty common things. There we go. And now if you want to, there we go. But if you reduce the weight of the doors, then the doors are actually removed, and it's clean, it's simple. I personally have never seen it. I've never seen any photos of a 222B running without doors, but I have flown in various other airframes over the years where the pilot's doors have been removed for various reasons, usually to do with long lining and transportation. But it is kind of cool that feature is actually here, and I appreciate that they did it. I don't think I'll ever personally fly a 222B without the doors, but if you so desire to fly a 222B without the doors, you absolutely can. So there we go. It's a small thing, but it's a nice little touch that I did want to show off to everybody. So now that I've shown it off, let's jump back into the office. All right, so back in the office. Now, not only can you remove the doors from the weight, you can actually open them more traditionally. Both the pilot and the co-pilot doors do both open, but as well as that, you can also open up the main doors as well. There we go. Okay, you can actually open up both of the passenger doors as well. So again, I know it's a thing where it always frustrates me a little bit because I'm very grateful to third-party developers for ensuring that they've got these kind of animations here, and the vast majority do. It always frustrates me a little bit as a side note too. Hey, Asobo, if you're watching, it really frustrates me how your aircraft all have the doors from looking at the models. Your aircraft all have the doors ready to be animated. You just choose not to animate them. That's slightly frustrating. Not gonna lie. Anyway, moving on. The only thing I would probably say is that because the click points to open and close the doors are actually on the doors, it can be a little bit difficult if you're in the pilot seat and you go and you turn around to sort of open the door to then be able to get the door to close again. It's a bit hard to find the click point to bring the doors closed again, but that's fine, and that's what we have the movable camera for. And I also like the fact that the doors actually close with a a suitably appropriate thunk. I do appreciate that, to know that the doors are actually closed and ready and safe to operate. All right, okay. Now let's get on with starting up. Now this brings me to probably, and if I'm honest, this is probably my biggest, it's probably my only and my biggest bugbear with this add-on, is the checklist. Obviously, you know, I've talked about this ad nauseum on many add-ons. We're going many of my add-on reviews, as well as many of my streams and many of my other videos that I've made over the years, that one of the wonderful things about Microsoft Flight Simulator is that this is a hugely accessible flight simulator, and it is able to, you know, give so much to so many new generations of virtual aviators, or even for people like me who want to be able to, you know, challenge themselves by flying a different type of aircraft that they are not normally used to flying. One of the most important things about doing that, whether you are doing virtual aviation or real-world aviation, is checklists. And of course, you know, Microsoft Flight Simulator has a great system of in-sim checklists, and unfortunately, this add-on doesn't. The checklist is blank. Now, yeah, I'll credit, you know, CowanSim, where, you know, where credit is due, is that they do provide a checklist as part of the PDF documentation, which is okay. Fine for PC users, not so great for console users or people who aren't comfortable digging around inside the community folder to find out where the documentation is, or people who don't have multiple monitors, for example, to be able to bring up the checklist on a separate monitor. So that is, for me, it is a pretty big negative. Like I said, like it's probably the only thing that I'm really not happy about with this add-on, but honestly, it's a pretty big one for me. It really is. Now, as we go through the startup process, it looks like that at some point the Cowan Simulations had intended to include some form of abbreviated checklist inside the Garmin. However, it looks like that wasn't implemented. So, speaking of which, let's get this aircraft started. As I said, fortunately, I've read the checklist, and the aircraft is, I'll be honest, it is relatively easy to start. So this is very much I can feel that this could be an aircraft which is very much a softball when it comes to aviators who are wanting to learn helicopters. This would be a great one to be able to provide that step-by-step checklist to enable people to get more comfortable with, especially with turbine helicopters. But unfortunately, as I said, it's not included. I know it may seem like a small thing to some people, but for me, it is actually a pretty big deal. Anyway, all right, so let's get ourselves prepped and ready for takeoff. All right, so first things first, let's go up here. Let's get our batteries on. All right, so we're going to want to go battery. Oh, no, that's my generators. I want my battery on. Okay. So battery and avionics are all linked, and actually this will give me a chance once the Garmin here fires up. I'll just acknowledge the master caution there. Okay, GNS 530 and 430 loading up there. I do like the fact that it actually has a time to load as well. Like that is actually, it doesn't just snap on, it is fully and instantly aligned. Like it actually does go through its process of actually loading all the data and giving you all the warnings that I actually have come to expect from the data from using a Garmin GPS system. All right, so you go through here, okay, cool, and you acknowledge the entry there, okay. Now, this is where I was saying before that it looks like that the original intent had been to put a checklist in here, so you can actually sort of go up here and check and select this, but if you hit the select button, nothing actually happens. So, as I said, like it looks like there was an intention, and this, while again not as ideal, you know, as having it built into the Sim's native checklist system, this would have been at least going towards being acceptable. The fact that it's also not enabled is a little frustrating. So yeah, anyway, we'll move past that for now. But as I said, this is probably my biggest bugbear about this add-on. All right, so while it's going through and acquiring it's the satellites there, let's go through our startup process here. All right, so first step will be engine number 1. So first off, we're going to put our anti-collision lights on, preparation for start. We're going to put our seat belts light on, snow smoking lights on. We're going to open up the fuel valve for engine number 1. And we're going to put our fuel primer on, so we can hear the fuel pumps engaging. Alright, so we're set to go here, and then we are going to go engine, start assist, engine number 1. As I said, it's really simple, the engine start system for this one. There we go. Clicks forwards. Here, the turbine's building up. So this is a twin engine helicopter, so we do have 2 engines here. Start and rising. Our rotor starting to turn. Push that throttle up a little bit. Okay, engine RPM stabilized. Close fuel switch, open up, and now we've got to put our Gen 1 is on. Open up engine fuel valve number 2. Prime. Starter assist number 2. Engine number 2. And 1 rising. And stable. Okay. Starter lights are out. Okay. Generator 2 is on. Fuel pumps off. Fuel interconnection on. Alright. Now we just need to set our engine anti-ice on. Pitot heats on. Okay, we are set. Auxiliary fuel tank is set to auto. Okay, we are set. Landing light is on. Position lights on. All lighting systems are on and correct. Alright, looking good. Okay, so that is us set up and ready to go. Okay, so as I said, and this goes to what's the engine start process for this helicopter is fairly basic and fairly straightforward. So there's not a huge amount to it, but it is something which is why, for me, in many ways, I really look at it and go, this would be the perfect, you know, it's almost a softball with this helicopter to be able to help newer aviators. You know, this would be a great one to be able to use a checklist to actually be able to go, you know, this is how you start a turbine helicopter. So it is a little bit disappointing it's not there. But anyway, moving on. All right, let's have a look here. All right, so we are set up here. A couple of things to quickly go over with this cockpit. Although it does appear that there is a helicopter autopilot or pilot assist included, it is non-functional. So if you're expecting to have, if you're expecting this to be kind of helicopter where you can just, like, you know, point and go, sorry, no, you actually still have to fly this one like a real helicopter. Sorry to disappoint. So although the instruments are located there, they are tagged as inoperative, so you do have to manually trim this helicopter. There is a interesting one here with the cable cut here. Now, obviously, this is non-functional at the moment, but perhaps maybe when 2024 comes out, we start seeing things like sling loading being natively included with the sim, we might start seeing this to become a bit more useful, or maybe we might even get added in. Who knows? But we'll find out as time goes on. All right, now enough of me talking here. Let's get ourselves up into the air. All right, so we are checked here. Throttle's set to full. Collective is down. Check the stick. Oop. Gotta be careful that, when I do that, I can move even with low power. Alright. Parking brake. Release. Alright, so we're here in Toronto and going to be making a short trip across the lake to America today as a bit of our flight here. Now, you bring the power easily just slightly on and we'll just taxi out to the active runway. Now, one of the things about this helicopter, as I said, like, there is a lot of power provided by these two turbines. So it is something that I'm not going to lie, it caught me by surprise when I first started practicing, getting ready for this review, and first started trying this helicopter out. Is that the power? It does surprise you a little bit how much power there is. So it can be something to get used to a little bit. But it is something that is definitely you can get used to. Alright. Now, funny story for those who may not know, helicopters who are leaving normal airports are generally expected to fly and actually take off from runways, especially if there aren't dedicated helipads, and depart using standard procedures. Not that we're sort of standing on procedures too much here, because, I mean, that's not exactly my way, but it is something that, you know, if you're ever wondering why helicopters might be seen on runways, that is actually why. It actually helps air traffic control and general air safety to be able to do that. So we're going to line up here on the runway and then depart. Now I'll see if I can make a complete fool of myself when it comes to flying helicopters. Alright, so we are looking good, everything in the green, no cautions, no warnings. Alright. Bringing collective up. Little bit shaky. And gear traveling. See, yeah, this helicopter does have retractable gear, part of what makes the beautiful sleek lines of the 222. But overall, like, the helicopter is very smooth. Like, I find that the flight model is, it has its quirks, it has its challenges, like all helicopters do, but it is, at least for me, I found it to be fairly intuitive once I got used to having the trim. And it is something that I do highly advise for any new helicopter aviators, is make sure you go through the settings and look at the helicopter trims, because they are actually separate, bound separately from fixed wing, aileron and elevator trim. You do have to bind them separately, rotorcraft trim, but once you do, you will find that your life is made so much easier from when you've got the trims engaged. So I'm just going to turn off my landing lights. There we go. As I said, overall the flight is very easy. As I said, like, she has her quirks and foibles, and that, some of that comes from the amount of power, but the overall, for me, I find, like all helicopters, to be honest, is that smooth, even inputs will give you a far better result than rapid yanking of the stick. And that is something as well that I'm not going to say that I had to relearn, but it was something that I had to get a stark reminder of when flying helicopters, is that you are very much focusing on flying at all times. As I said before, it's not like, you know, with, you know, say, you know, some aircraft where you can sort of just program an autopilot and it does its, you know, everything flies itself for you. You are far more hands-on controls when it comes to helicopters, especially because they do require that deft touch. You know, you've always got your foot slightly down on the rudder pedals to help you keep a straight flight. But using the trim, as I was talking about before, I'm sort of just trimming nose down a little bit here to help keep my attitude right, to be able to keep level flight. Now, while flying along here, this actually is a good example of something that is both. It was both surprising to me, but also having talked to several real-world and virtual helicopter pilots now, something that is, I'm not going to say common, but is something that to be aware of, is that this helicopters are often far more overpowered than they need to be, because, you know, they've got to take off and land vertically, so they need to have a higher than one they've got to have a greater than one thrust to weight ratio. So one of the things that you can find yourself doing very unconsciously and very quickly is that you can find yourself very easily approaching and exceeding your VNE marked on your airspeed indicator, usually by a red line. So I found that my first few flights with this, I was massively blowing past my my VNE. And with helicopters, they sort of are one of those things where you can operate. The VNE isn't quite as a hard line as it is for fixed-wing aircraft. They can operate past it, obviously not too long, but they can operate past it when required or when needed, when necessary, because it's just the nature of them. But it is something that you have to be conscious of and be far more aware of when you're flying helicopters than you do have with fixed wings. You have less likely to receive the oral warning that you might get with fixed wing aircraft, that you would get with fixed wing aircraft when exceeding VNE or approaching VNE. So you have to be, again, like a lot of things with helicopters, you just have to generally just pay more attention to what's going on around you. So, you know, for me at the moment, yeah, my collective is, you know, almost at the midpoint, and yet I'm, you know, very much approaching my maximum speed here with, you know, very little input and effort from my part. In fact, I'll just slightly bump the collective up, just ever so slightly, trim my nose down a little bit to try and drop that vertical speed, and you'll find that that airspeed will increase fairly quickly. It still also feels unnatural to me a lot of the time, with the fact that I had to point my nose downwards to be able to go forward. That is something that's still, you know, it just disconcerts me, because I fly mostly fixed wing, so for me to sort of, you know, be pointing my nose to the ground to be going forward, just, it feels weird. It absolutely feels weird at times, and is something that I still struggle to get used to. And it is a fine balance of, you know, moving that collective to get it where you want, get the trip, you get the pitch trim and the stick position to be able to get yourself going on to help out and give you less stick input. And again, as I said, just watching that as our speed increases past our you know, recommended maximum speed there, and, you know, I'm still going up. You know, my collective still isn't even at max at the moment. So we're going to ease back on that collective a little bit, retrim, do a bit more of a sedate cruise speed as we continue on our flight. I don't know how we're gonna try having a look at the exterior here, but as I said, the fact that we need a lot of more control inputs with this helicopter as opposed to fixed wing aircraft, the external review of, you know, in-flight external look might be a little bit shorter than what we might normally have, but you know what? Let's give it a go. So here we go in flight, having a look at it, and again, it really captures that, as I said before, like the 222 is just such a beautifully sleek aircraft, and I absolutely love the model as it's been done. I think it's captured the lines perfectly, and we can see that there's, you know, through the animations here, you know, we can actually see the flex in the rotor blades as well. So it definitely shows that, you know, Cowan Simulations, you know, who's known for their helicopters, has definitely done a great deal of work on this helicopter and given us a very impressive model. Now, excuse me, I'm going to have to go back in the cockpit before this gets unrecoverable. Oh yeah, okay, and that is why, you know, helicopters, as I said, have to be, you know, they're a lot more hands-on than, say, you know, fixed-wing aircraft. You have to be, you have to actually be in control of the helicopter at all times, and I'm not going to say I'll be honest, I'm not going to say that's a bad thing. Like, I'm really not going to say that's a bad thing, because I think that is something that is, I mean, at the end of the day, and look, I'll be honest, it's a point of view that I have, is that if you're flight simming, then you're flying. I don't, it's not my kind of flight simming, and no disrespect for those who enjoy just programming a GPS and letting an aircraft fly itself. If that's the way you wish to fly, then good for you. But it is not my kind of flying. So in a way, as much as I sort of loathe and struggle with helicopters, they are in some ways actually very, very suited to my style of flying, because you have to be in control, you have to be aware of everything at all times. You can't just sort of set and forget. So in some ways, maybe the helicopter mafia have actually that's how they've been getting inside me, and sort of getting into my brain to enjoy this. But either way, the helicopter for me, as I said, once she can very, very much be a little bit challenging. You do have to be on the controls the whole time. Your feet will be doing a bit of dancing. Not a huge amount, and as I said before, subtle, small inputs will get you better results over drastic inputs. And once you assign the trim, as I'm pretty much always on the trim here, it will very much ease your workload for flying it. You don't have to fly with the stick pushed forward the entire time. So, how do I feel about the flight dynamics? Look, I think the flight dynamics are solid. I have never been in command of a helicopter. That is way beyond my real-world aviation skills. But having said that, though, having flown in helicopters, as a co-pilot and as in the back seat, many times, it still feels what it would like to feel, and I do like the challenge of a helicopter. So overall, I think they've done pretty well. Definitely some challenges when coming into land, which I'm sure we'll see when we come into our destination shortly. But now that we've talked about that, I think it might be a good idea for us to go and have a look at some of the other liveries, because you get quite a large number of liveries are actually included with the 222B package from Cowan Simulations. And not only do you get exteriors, you get interiors, so let's go and have a look at those. As well as the standard sort of executive interior that we get with this helicopter, we also get access to a medical ambulance interior, and one that I think is incredibly important, because many of the Bell 222s are actually used as medivacs, and of course it's one of the most widely used roles for helicopters in our modern world. And the fact is that we get a very highly detailed medical interior included with this helicopter, which includes not only an in-flight medic, but also a patient as well. So it isn't just a case of just putting in somebody who looks sickly. No, it is actually a full separate interior, complete with all the various medical devices included there. And you can actually still sort of just click and hide them if required, or use the weight and balance that we talked about previously when we're doing our pre-flight. So again, it's one of those little things that I really appreciate, the fact that Cowan Simulations really took the time and the effort to actually go, you know what, we want to make a very dynamic and a wide-ranging and a wide appealing add-on for this, and by giving us the variety of interiors that this aircraft is known for. So I really just wanted to showcase that one because I think it is important to see, and besides, I love anything to do with Medivac, so I think it's a pretty cool add-on to be a part of the add-on to show off. One of the other important things to look at with many add-ons, especially for helicopters, is to look at things like the night lighting. And the night lighting in this helicopter is very well done and very much looks the part. So you've got the overall sort of console lighting, which can be dimmed, as well as individual backlighting on almost all of the controls. So which is always important. And these are all adjustable through the various displays up here. So you can sort of adapt how high or how low you want the console lighting, storm lighting, which covers off the main overarching thing here as well. But not only does the lighting extend to the internals of the helicopter, obviously it concerns the external of the helicopter with your running nav lights and running lights and things like that. One of course the important things that helicopters do is they do things like they support police services, or they support medical services. So you also get the option of a inbuilt searchlight in the helicopter as well, which can be extended by clicking the switch there. and then it can actually be manipulated through this little hat switch here. And we're just going to try and sort of manipulate it here now as well. And you can actually see it moving off through the screen there, so you can actually keep an eye on where it is and sort of click and drag the cursor around it by using the hat switch. So it's one of those little features of this helicopter that I think is incredibly well done, and I feel that this one helps the role play community very, very well. So for those who might be wanting to do sort of rescue ops or police ops with helicopters, it's a small feature, but it's something that is, it's very much part of the real helicopter, and it's great to see it actually brought to life in the sim. So it's a nice touch, but one that I am very, very grateful for the Cowan Simulations added in. So yeah, I think it might be a small thing, but you know what? I think it's something that's really cool and really well done. Alright, so as we approach to Niagara Falls here, something else to note as well is that this aircraft is full IFR compatible as well, so it is capable of doing all manner of instrument approaches and instrument services. I've actually just tuned in the Niagara Falls DME down here, which you can see down there with counting down. So it is something that, for those who are instrument flyers as well as visual flyers, this is something for you as well. So you don't have to worry about if the flying conditions aren't great, you still are able to fly, though why you would, I'm not 100% sure, but you can if you so desire. Now as we come back here, we fly down the river here. It is a bit of a shame, I must admit, that I do find it disappointing that Asobo and Microsoft, nothing to do with this add-on, but even Microsoft and Asobo didn't animate Niagara Falls as much as it's iconic. It was even in FSX. That would be nice if they could do that, but fortunately the community saves us once again with an animation for Niagara Falls. But anyway, all right, so we're just coming through here. At least I think I put that add-on in. Helicopters are just such a great way to be able to see the scenery, because they can just sort of stop. Well, it can be challenging too, but they can stop in midair, and just so you can just watch stuff. And they generally offer some pretty good visibility as well. So it is always cool to be able to just explore the world from Frantic Palm Tree. So as I said, Frantic Palm Tree is always, I look at them and go, they shouldn't fly, but this one for me really does feel like it wants to fly, and I am pleasantly surprised at how I've been able to adapt to this aircraft. And as I said, I feel that it is done really well. It is a absolute pleasure to fly. It really, really is. Alright, let's have a look at the falls here. There we go, we've got at least some animation going on there. Hey, so Microsoft, can you just include that, please? Just for the rest of us, please, that would be awesome. Okay, thanks. I've sadly never actually been to the falls myself. It is definitely something on my list of things to go, but again, this is kind of one of the things that I love about flight simulation, is that you get to visit far-flung places in the world that you want to go to, that you may not, for one reason or another, may not be able to get to in real life, but this gives you the opportunity to visit them, at least virtually, in a different way. Alright, well, let's come in and attempt our landing now. There should be a heliport just nearby here, so I'm going to start killing off my collective and speed for a second here. I believe that is my heliport there, just on the US side of the border. So we're going to, there it is, yep, that's my helipad there. Okay, so we're going to, the wind's coming out of the west here, so we're going to circle around and then approach from the west. So bleed off that little bit of the collective, keeping the pitch up. We're going to turn our landing light on. There's also a bit weird to be able to sort of, you know, have to pitch, you know, well, I suppose pitching up to slow down isn't something I'm not necessarily, you know, not familiar with. Alright, so let's reduce the speed. Gear travelling. Alright. Yeah, this is where it gets very challenging for me, sort of directing the helicopter about where do I want you to go? Okay, I need you to go that way. Too much rudder. Don't want to hit any buildings. Eep. Okay. Yep, we're totally going to abort that landing. We're going to go back again. We're going to try that again, I think. Okay. Going in. Don't want to come down in the park beside the helipad. We want to come down actually on the helipad. Trying to be a little bit more in control. Not that I ever feel. There are times when I definitely do not feel in control of helicopters, and you know, the pressure of doing a review video is kind of one of those times when it's very much not helping. Okay. Very, very gentle maneuvers. Very gentle, but being mindful that the rotor wash is going to change once I cross over that hard surface. Oh, oof. Okay. A little bouncy, but I'm going to say that's not a hull loss, so that's, I think, an advantage. Okay, let's hit the parking brake. Let's see how well I managed to line up on that helipad. Not 100% sure, but let's have a look. Okay, that's not too bad. Except I gotta say that at least we're relatively within the bounds of where we're supposed to be on the helipad. So I suppose that's at least it could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse. And we're just gonna say that, you know, just gonna make sure that the techs check the landing gear after we get back to the depot. All right, let's jump back inside and shut this aircraft down. Alright, now, I'm not 100% sure if this is the way we're supposed to shut it down, but okay, but parking brake is secured, and fuel and tank interconnect is off, and fuel valve engine 1 is closed, engine 2 is closed, and we pull the throttle down to idle stop. Okay, we start to hear the engine starting to spool down. Acknowledge the master caution. Alright. Engine anti-ice pitot heat is off. Anti-coals, we'll leave those on. Position lights can come off for now. Landing lights off. Okay, just everything starting to spool down. Okay, engine torque is idle. Rotor starting to idle down. Okay, overall good. Hide systems offline. We can turn our seatbelt signs off. Leave our anti-coals on till the rotor has finished turning. And to aid in stowing the rotor, we'll engage our rotor brake on the side here. Help arrest that rotor into a safe condition. Alright, and that is complete. Release the rotor brake. Release the rotor brake. Anti-coals are off, and battery master is off. Okay, alright. Well, now that we are fully shut down, let's jump outside and let's give our final thoughts on the beautiful CowanSim Bell 222B. Alright, so for me, this is, as I said at the very start of this video, this is very much outside of my normal area of expertise, and It is something that I absolutely love because I love challenging myself to something different. And in many ways, helicopters, and not, this helicopter, in particular, and all helicopters in general, do speak to me as a virtual aviator because I actually liked being in control of the helicopter and actually, or the aircraft, and actually being engaged with it. And helicopters are very much something that you absolutely have to do at all times. And I feel that CowanSim have really captured this airframe really, really well. Like the modeling is absolutely, for me, it seems absolutely spot on. The effects, the programming, the systems are all absolutely great. The texturing is done really, really well. In terms of flight dynamics, look, for me, it does what it says on the tin. It is a challenge, so it's definitely not a glorified fixed wing with super stall. Like, no, this actually handles like a helicopter. It handles how I would imagine a helicopter handling, and from my experience in the back of one and in the co-pilot seat. So for me, I think this is a great add-on. I think the team have done some incredible work with it, bringing to life a true iconic of the rotary winged world, and I think they've absolutely done it justice. The only and as I said throughout this, the only negative that I really have for this one is the lack of the use of checklists, whether that be the in-sim checklist that Microsoft Flight Simulator has natively available to it, or even something available and accessible in cockpit, such as as I said before, as we saw during the avionics review. It looked like there was an attempt or a consideration at some point to perhaps put in a checklist into the GNS 530, but for whatever reason, that was never complete. So yeah, that is the only negative I really have, and the fact I have to go to external documentation to be able to go through the startup process and go through your checklist just feels like that is a missed opportunity. But it overall doesn't detract from the overall experience. So for me, it is still a great product, great add-on that just needs to have a couple of minor things improved. The fact that the team not only give us this amazing airframe, amazing historical and iconic airframe, but also give it to us with a number of additional features like the movable searchlight, the removable doors, the two different types of interiors. It really goes to show that the developers got a lot of passion for this project and really delivered a product of outstanding quality, minus that one minor critique. So overall, for me, this has been a lot of fun. It's a great learning experience, and it is absolutely a pleasure to fly, as much as I can find pleasure flying helicopters. So yeah, overall, from me, it comes as a highly recommended release. And as we round out this review video, I do want to say a huge thank you once again to the team over at Cowan Simulations and to Orbix for providing the review copy of this aircraft today. And if you do want to pick that one up, you can pick that up from either of those stores or from your favorite flight sim retailer available now. And with that, folks, that does round out this review. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, as always, to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying these videos and want to see more. And of course, as always, you can catch up with me and all the things I'm up to between videos by following me on Facebook and on Twitter and on Twitch. Just search NovaWing24. All right, folks, thanks very much for watching. Take care, safe skies to all, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.